start recording now.
Okay, I guess you see my presentation, right? Perfect. So yeah, I just wanted to also thank you, everyone. I've been following these sessions, these 3 sessions, and I found them very enlightening and very, very interesting. I think it's really the moment also to build more synergies between not only the student movement and also and other NGOs and organizations working on the topic, but also like to really have a coordination and be able to strengthen our position. I'm going to be presenting what is the Global Action Week of Education. That it's basically an event organized every year by the Global Campaign for Education, and it's one of the flagship campaigns of the GCE. It's a 1 week of mobilization at the global level for the right to education, and every year focuses on a specific topic. For example, last year was education in emergencies, and this year, as David mentioned before, it's going to be the colonization of education, which is very much in line with the topics that have been discussed in these 3 sessions. The dates of this year, for you to know, it's from 29th of May to 4th of June. This is a members driven initiative. So every member of the Global Campaign for Education will have the space to propose and to coordinate different kind of workshops, activities, conferences, and so on. And it will be supported by the Secretariat of the Global Campaign for Education. As David mentioned before, this topic was selected during the last World Assembly at the end of 2022, and the topic for this year is decolonizing education financing. As also David mentioned before, there's a key reference to the TES call to action agreed by the heads of states in the summit in September 2022, which of course lays out a very transformative agenda that addresses topics on action on tax, action on austerity, action on debt, and different kind of possible activities and actions to develop through this call. That I think it's also the role of civil society to really ensure that member states really follow up on these previously agreed demands. Then one of the things that the Global Campaign for Education is also trying to build up on that narrative that David was mentioning before is that SDG 4 is not going to be really realized by 2030 without a significant and well-targeted increase in financing, especially in those countries that are farther away from achieving quality education for all at all levels. Therefore, it is especially important for those international and regional benchmarks for them to allocate efficiently gross domestic product, at least between 15 and 20% of the total public expenditure for education. And as we can see in this slide, we need to increase what we call the 4S of the budget: the share of national budget dedicated to education, the size of government budgets overall, the sensitivity of education budget allocation, and the scrutiny of education spending in practice. I continue. As we were mentioning before, the TES finance agenda makes clear that to finance education, we also need to look at the increasing available to finance education. And this requires national actions to expand tax to GDP ratios through progressive tax, national and international action on debt justice, demand renegotiation or cancellation, and national and international action to end austerity policies. Why the colonial thinking or decoloniality is the topic of this year and is paramount to education? Well, it really means changing the power dynamics between national governments and international donors, lenders, and financial institutions, making sure that national governments, in consultation with their citizens, are in the driving seat of shaping education reforms. And I would say that this is also especially important to have students as part of this process. As we point out here, the biggest blocks to expanding financing on education are in the international financial system that perpetuate a colonial relationship of extraction and control, and of course, oppression to those regions who have lesser opportunities or lesser resources. While aid plays a very important role, it should not be shaping the agenda, and it needs to be properly harmonized. Finally, a decolonial mindset also rejects the supremacy of Western philosophies and policies and Eurocentric modalities of being and knowing in the world, and instead arguing the knowledge production is tied to local and concrete struggles. Therefore, it favor analyzes art forms and actions that are particular to context and begin from the ground up. So the Global Action Week 2023 call to action will call on member states and governments to commit to reach an adequate tax to GDP ratio through ambitious and progressive tax reforms. And this is why it's important to build the synergies that we were saying before. And we have to link these tax reforms with commitments towards financing educational investment and for low-income countries to increase in 5 percentage points by 2030. This would allow doubling of spending on education, but also on health. Second, prioritize global actions on taxes by supporting international reforms that can help countries increase their tax income in a rapid and progressive way. Shifting international financial institutions country-level dialogue to be bolder and more progressive on tax reforms. This would include global action on tax loopholes, agreements on global asset register, the reduction of illicit financial flows and unfair trade taxation, action on tax havens, and promoting a process for setting fair global tax rules. Third, it would be important to establish also specific goals with respect to the percentage of educational investment, going to the 40% and 20% of families with lowest income to those living in rural areas or distant areas, children with disabilities, or those especially vulnerable. Fourth, increase the proportion of such aid going to education from 15 to 20% of total ODA and allocate this to the countries where it needs the most. As we said before, also revise the international financial debt and architecture to ensure sufficient financing can be mobilized in support of long-term sustainable development objectives. And this is very important also because I remember in one of the sessions we were mentioning how difficult it's actually sometimes to really focus on national matters, or like how it's difficult to only tax on the national level when actually so many corporates and so many basically big private corporates can juggle from one country to another and can really maneuver between the legislation of different places. And this is actually why it's especially important that we have an international financial and debt architecture that ensure the sufficient financing. And then for sure, support action on debt relief, restructuring, and in some cases even cancellating for some countries, spending more on debt than on education. And of course, a call that was already shared before, to urge the International Monetary Fund and other international financial institutions to remove existing obstacles such as public sector wage constraints that prevent increased spending on education. We also have particular calls from youth and students for recognition and clear acknowledgement that colonization that has taken place and continues to take place has an impact on education inequality globally. And as youth and students, we urge to reallocate funding from colonial education systems. We also demand investing in community-based education models, which can include supporting alternative educational models that are based on traditional indigenous knowledge and values that are led by members of the community. We also call to prioritize funding for indigenous and minority-led education initiatives, which can include providing grants and other forms of financial support to organizations and individuals working to promote decolonized education within their communities. And finally, promoting access to information, which includes creating resources and tools to help communities understand and navigate the education finances system and to hold decision makers for how funds are reallocated. And just to close up, I think especially us, that we are all very young and we're students, we've seen in the past years how there's been a whole wave of privatization, commodification of education at all levels. And through these 3 sessions, we've been seeing that in each country, this wave of privatization has been very different. In some countries, affects early childhood access to education. In other countries, affects higher education. And the point of these discussions and these gatherings, getting everyone together to discuss these important topics, is actually to act and to follow up together. So I think no matter where you are and no matter what are your struggles at the moment, it is real, and it is rooted in most of our cases to a system that is not working for most of us, and it's especially not working for the ones with lesser opportunities and lesser resources. So this is also a personal call for all of you to keep on joining the Global Student Forum activities, and of course, to join the Global Action Week for Education at the end of May. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carmen, for this comprehensive presentation. I saw in the chat that a lot of people were already requesting the slides. So if you would be so kind to send the slides to me, I will then forward them to all participants via the mailing list. While we have you, Carmen, I would like to open up the floor in case anyone has questions concerning the Global Action Week or questions related to the presentation that Carmen just gave. The floor is yours. You can just raise your hand and get going. Anyone has questions or comments to Carmen?
I can actually mention more technical than the presentation, that for anyone wanting to participate in any way or in any capacity, the Global Action Week is going to be open for everyone, so you can just register. But if you want to participate in shaping the process, I'm going to be the representative on the technical group working on the organization of the GAWE, so you can reach out to me. I'm going to leave my email on the chat, so you can reach out to me in case that you want to propose a topic, or that you're especially interested in contributing in any of the areas. We have the Youth and Student Action Group of the GCE, but also the Global Student Forum is member of the constituency. So you can either participate through GSF or by reaching out to me if you prefer so.
Thanks a lot, Carmen. So now 5 seconds if anyone wants to ask a question or give a comment, otherwise we will move on. And I thank you once again, Carmen, for taking the time. Now, the next step, colleagues, would be to have a more in-depth look at the advocacy opportunities that are coming up. And then I would like to discuss with you a proposal in terms of next step that we have thought through in the team that is very much up for discussion and very much should be guided by your own capacities to interact with it. And your own regional and national plans in terms of follow-up. So I'm going to share my screen quickly. I will also share this presentation at the end with comments, so you have an overview. We've been already briefly talking about it. There are a few events coming up that are really important. We have the UN Tax Committee session already at the end of March. And in April, the IMF and World Bank spring meetings, which, as David was mentioning, can be a very good point to push for the outcomes of the financing track of the Transforming Education Summit. The Transforming Education Summit was held at the sidelines of the last United Nations General Assembly and had some very, very strong findings and engagement. In May, we have the Global Action Week for Education from the GCE side, which I hope that we can support together as GSF, but also as individual organizations that were part of this seminar series. In June and July, you have the annual high-level political forum in New York that has a lot of hybrid sessions. There is the Education and Academia Stakeholder Group, which the Global Student Forum is an organizing partner of, that is hosting a side event together with the GCE for sure, and has a good means of interacting with the high-level political forum. So if you are interested in joining the Education Academia Stakeholder Group and you're already a member of the GSF, you can indicate your interest. Also in the follow-up email, I will share with you a link that is for members of the Global Student Forum to automatically be considered as members of this group. And then we can think about how we interact with the high-level political forum this year and how we bring the education, financing, and tax justice agenda to New York, at least by digital means. Again, in New York, we have the United Nations General Assembly in September. There will be the SDG Summit as a follow-up to the Transforming Education Summit. We will definitely try to get people there from the student movement. We will definitely try to find funding to facilitate in-person activities there, but have a lot of side events and probably also a consultation effort that will bring together student unions to develop a position paper for the SDG Summit. We hope that there will be a strong focus again on economic and tax justice. In October, you have the Marrakesh meetings of the IMF and the World Bank that David was talking about. I think here we will definitely put strong emphasis on trying to work specifically with the African National Union of Students within the GSF membership. We had the Justice for Africa campaign throughout the past month, which led to mobilizations in more than 20 countries on the 20th of February, and used that momentum to work around that meeting in October. And then we have the 23rd November, which is the anniversary of this historic UN tax vote at the UNGA. And last but not least, again, COP in December, and the anniversary of the Santiago Declaration of the Our Futures Public Conference that was taking place in Chile last year. Sebastian and Maxi were there. I was also there, and they have very strong set of organizations that contributed to this declaration. So these are the big moments ahead in 2023 that we could collectively target and think about mobilizing around. Now, in terms of next steps on the global level, what we've been thinking would be to take all of the minutes and the outcomes and the key points that were presented by you, but also by our speakers in the last two sessions, and put them together in a policy document that reflects and serves as a reference tool for advocacy, the student unions, the international student movement stance on tax justice for education. The idea would then be to launch that officially. I think if we manage to be quick enough to get it done for the April IMF and World Bank meetings, that would be wonderful. And together with that, we would need a social media campaign. So what we would be doing on the global level is prepare shareables, prepare content that streamlines the main messages and demands from the policy paper. Then would be the question on how to localize and nationalize the content. As I was saying, another thing that we can be doing together is side events to all of these conferences, either officially, if they let us, or we do it unofficially and have our side events as GSF or as National Union, Regional Union hosted, but still relating to the respective high-level moment. Then the mobilization with the Global Action Week for Education partners is coming up, and Carmen will be your reference point for that. And last but not least, something that we can do basically throughout the whole year, and we hope that this will have strong engagement from your end, is we would develop together a template letter to be used to approach finance ministers on the national level. And we hope that this could be a joint cooperation where this letter would be undersigned by the Global Student Forum, by Education International on the global level, but then also the respective National Union of Students and the National Teacher Union. So it would be a call by both the teacher and the student movement, plus potentially organizations from the tax justice movement to these respective decision makers. And I think we had this kind of campaign before around the Erasmus program, very different story. But these kind of letters also led to meetings with ministers. So we hope that that could be one of the outcomes. Now, I would like to discuss other ideas beyond that. So we will, I just finished the presentation, and then we're going to open the floor. And thankfully, Alex is here to minute your inputs. What else can be done? What are we missing right now on the global level. Now, the question is, how do we take this forward in practical terms? We were hoping, and that is a call that is open today, but also will be open in the follow-up email, to form a working group consisting of Hector as a working group chair from the Global Student Forum, but mainly of participants, of student union representatives from the regional and national level, coming together, closely collaborating with myself and the Secretariat to draft up this policy paper. We have a lot of good inputs, as I said already. We're not starting from the scratch. We're using what was brought to us in the last 2 sessions and in today's session, and then develop and implement the social media campaign with the support of our graphic people in the Secretariat. So you don't need to hop on Photoshop, but it's more about the conceptual ideas that we would be hoping to get from you. Then help with organizing site events and high-level conferences, and coordinate this outreach campaign together with us to national finance ministries, and help in general terms the facilitation of local and national efforts. So that would be the main idea for this working group, which I hope can be a very, very strong tool to really engage with the membership and get this done. So we would need volunteers for that. And if you already feel like you would like to do that, you can express it now, but also we're gonna put that into the follow-up email, the opportunity to be part of this working group. Last but not least, I would like to discuss in the next 30 minutes that we have left with you, what were the key takeaways from you for this seminar. I had a lot, I learned a lot in these past 3 seminars. And also hear from your end, what will your national, local next steps look like? So maybe we can get inspired and other people can go in the similar direction. So as a reminder, the things that we want to talk about is other ideas on the global level, the working group, who can imagine to be part of the working group, and key takeaways and next steps. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and open the floor to anyone who wants to speak up. The procedure is as usual, you raise your hand and then get going. So key takeaways, next steps, volunteer applications to the working group. Here we go. And my dear Alex, can you please already note down the names in the chat of the colleagues who expressed interest? Thank you. All right, anyone wants to share? Now is the time. Silvas, please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Hope I'm audible.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so so for me, I think it's been interesting from the very start. I think up to now where we are. Key takeaway for me. By the way, my name is Tilvas, as indicated. Tilvas. I'm Zambian, but I'm working in Kenya with ActionAid Kenya. It's been an interesting journey. I think I have been joining from the very start up to now. Key takeaway for me, I think, is just looking at one key thing on funding for education, and just also the concept of increasing the tax GDP ratio from 5% to 15 to 20%, especially in developing countries. I think that is the main key takeaway for me. In terms of next course of action, we are also working around tax issues coming up here in Kenya, partly also with a global platform. And one of the things that we are targeting is there's a budget discussion for Kenya that is starting up. I think it is a good opportunity to just kickstart that conversation around the increase in terms of funding allocation to education. I think I think it's a good entry point to begin that sort of campaign entry point in terms of discussing issues like that. So yeah, and I'm very much willing to also be volunteer to be part of the working group. I would be glad to learn more, but also to be able to input the knowledge that I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dilwas, for these important points you raised in terms of national mobilization, but also your willingness to join the working group. I'm really happy to see so many expressions of interest already. It looks like we're going to have at least 1 or 2 people per region, which is wonderful in terms of handling the campaign afterwards. Teresa, the floor is yours.
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you well. Teresa, we can hear you. Well, we could
Yes,
hear you before. Now it's good. Yes.
I'm from Liberia. I actually want to work with the team for tax justice because I believe that my country is one of the poorest country in Africa. And then those people that have a lower income in my country they don't benefit from tax that is paid to government. They don't benefit for anything. So I wish to work. I wish to join any team in order to bring out something to my country, because there are a lot of slum communities in my country. There are kids in the street that are not going to school. Some of these parents, some of the parents are single parents. They only provide the means of food, but they don't have the means to education. And these children end up in the ghetto in Africa. So their future goes down when they are not educated. So I'm willing to work with tax justice. I'm willing to be a part of the advocacies in order for my country and other countries to actually benefit. Because I read a lot about this tax justice when I just applied for the sessions. And then it's talk about Ghana, Pakistan, Nigeria, and these are the countries that actually needs help. So I'm happy to work with you guys.
Thanks a lot, Teresa. Couldn't agree more with what you were saying, and amazing to have you on board for the working group. That's brilliant. Thanks for that. Aya, you're next.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. So I'll be extremely interested to be part of the working group. However, I wanted to know, is it necessary to be a union before joining the working group?
I think
or any CSO?
in general, for becoming a member of the Global Student Forum, we don't have individual membership. We have only organizational membership, but the working groups are based on individual membership. So I think especially for this one, it is about people who are interested to work in that. So you don't need to have an official nomination by your union. We're going to make that a bit less bureaucratic than usual. I hope that answers the question. You're muted, Aya. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm saying I think so. So I'm working for the Global Initiative for Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, also part of the organizations that were in OFIP in Chile, and we've started working on the issue of tax justice and education. That's why it really triggered my interest to be in the working group. So that's why I wanted to ask if people are qualified or if there are specific requirements to be part of the working group to work on the policy paper.
Not at all. Everyone who is willing and has been part of this is welcome. And having been part of the Chile conference, I know the quality of the work your organization is doing. So I'm sure that would add a lot of value.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next on my list is Blessing.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello?
Yes, Blessing, we can hear you well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good afternoon to everyone. I'm Blessing Jacob from Liberia, and I'm so much excited to be part of this workshop or this training. And you know, we are actually like facing a lot of problems from our country, Liberia, most especially on our tax justice, where you see a lot of market women's, our, those that is not working, those that is down, they are actually facing a lot of problem in our country. And we see that every day. And we hope to work very hard as an individual and as a young person coming out to actually work on this, that those that is out there, because as you can see, a lot of young children are on the streets. They are actually need help, but there is no way because they are not benefiting from our government on the taxes that is paid. So we hope to work on that and be able to advocate on that our government will see the need to help others. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Blessing.
So I'm so much interested in working along with you guys.
That is much appreciated, and looking forward to also having you in the working group and the perspective from Liberia. Next up is Brins Desmond.
Yeah, so thank you, Sebastian. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you to the Global Student Forum for organizing these seminars. It's been quite a very a learning platform for every one of us. Well, there used to be this youth advisory group on education in Liberia, but it was a network that was sponsored by a USAID project. And since that funding dropped down, there had never been such a group. And this forum has just opened and created a platform for young people to come together and start to think about some of the policy issues around education that has to be addressed. And one key among those is the issues on tax justice in Liberia, especially globally now. So with this beginning, with all of those commitments and thinking about next steps moving forward, specifically think that in a place like Liberia, we need to start to organize this kind of a network as well, to be able to sit around the table, look at some policy gaps that are within the education sector, look at issues around education financing and some of the national plans that the government have already developed, if it also considers specific dividends in education for young people. So I'm interested, and I understand that this forum should be a place to start this kind of advocacy discussions, and where we can also elevate the discussions at the national level and at the international level. So quite frankly, I would like to reorganize that youth advisory group on education that we had before that was functional, and we can use that platform to be able to raise voices of many young people who are affected by some tax injustices within the education sector, both in Liberia and the region as well. You know, in Africa, there's a lot of issues around education, and most of those issues have been tied to policies and how government have been envisioned education financing within their national agendas. And discussing these issues means sitting at this kind of forums with the Global Student Forum, building networks and building synergies with other countries to see how we can elevate these voices as well. I'll be more interested in seeing what is the commitment, what you spoke about, the joint letter to finance ministers. Maybe those the letters, what if it's something that can be contextualized in terms of maybe if I'm country like Liberia is going to be using this kind of letter. I know it's a template, but can the template also be contextualized so that it fits within our own context and what demands we want from our government? Some government are doing well in terms of financing because some government have given at least 18 to 20% of the national budget to education, but not in the case of Liberia, who in fact in this year our educational budget is just 9% of the national budget. So in terms of developing and delivering this kind of a joint communication to stakeholders, maybe we can look at some of our demands to include within those kind of letters, and with the voices of other networks like the GSF, we think we can make a stronger impact. So I look forward to working with GSF and look forward to also working with the technical working group to move forward on the issues around tax justice. Thank you so much, Sebastian.
Thank you, Prince. And I think you raised a really important issue in terms of the national localization of the campaign, both in terms of the letter, but I think also of the content. That is very important. We need to base that on the respective national context, and I think that's really the strength of having a coordinated approach on a global level and having these things taking place in many different countries. But then on the other hand, really relying on exploring the national context and addressing these realities. So I think that's a really important point you raised. Next up is Mozilla.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. I'm actually somewhere in a noisy place, but I should be able to be here. Can you hear me? Oh, thank you. So just like Tilvas, I am from Kenya, and I work very closely with the global platforms and Action Aid through the Activista movement. And recently, towards the end of the last year, we started a campaign, Tax Justice, using artists to speak to issues of how revenue is collected and even how it is expended. And of course, this is one of the things that we've been very strong on in this 3-day series, how tax are going to be used to better education access to the majority and promoting justice in that regards. So I'm particularly very excited that the 3 days have been full and rich of knowledge and even action points. And like you just mentioned of the working group, very interested to joining and volunteering in the working group, and also contributing in especially regional conversations and seeing how together with other people within the region we can continue this conversation and ensuring that the governments around here can ensure that it protects its people, it serves its people in a just way, and that the taxes, how they collected and even how they expended comes out as in such a way that is promoting comfortable living. So I wouldn't have much to say for now, but I really appreciate the fact that even education is becoming a key priority. It is so sad that now even in the context of our country, we even have a conversation to start removing some of the funding towards higher education, and that is so chaotic. So having these conversations around and even beyond to development partners like the IMF and World Bank, which give loans to countries on a very strict measures, would be something that would be very happy for us to do. So thank you very much and blessings.
Thank you, Mozilla. I see Carmen has raised her hand. Carmen.
Yeah, I wanted to, well, thank you everyone for what you've been saying, because it was very interesting and enlightening. I wanted to brainstorm a bit to answer one of the questions that Sebastian was asking at the beginning, like what can we do and how can we do it? And I think like the letter to governments and so on, it's really important. And actually GC is going to encourage its national coalitions to also reach out to their ministers of finance and head of states to remind them the TES finance call to action. But I think it would be also like very important to do it, as Sebastian said, from teachers unions and student unions. And I would go even farther, like also like kind of have a symbolic campaign that makes a bit of noise and that makes some people uncomfortable, and we address directly the IMF and the World Bank, and it can be not something like that it requires a lot, because it's very difficult to build a world campaign from with a bottom-up approach, but I think if we coordinate very specific actions to have pictures, videos of young people and students all over the world with a very set clears of demands on what do we need right now, like why tax justice is so important for our education systems. I think this is something that we could do, and the GSF together with GCE, but also teachers unions and so on, could bring to the table, and that would also be like a creative campaign that would try to make some people uncomfortable, and that it's not only us in an online setting or in a room in a building where no one really knows what's going inside, but actually raising awareness also for the people who might not be able to be here today or who might not be able to join a meeting in a room. but to still like raise awareness of the importance of the topic.
Thanks, Carmen. I couldn't agree more with what Carmen is saying. Colleagues, we have another half an hour in theory, and I think if there are more people who want to take the floor, we can continue doing that. From our end, there's not much left to say, to do. I'm just going to wrap up maybe once more the next steps from our end. So the floor is still open. And if anyone wants to share some more ideas in terms of global engagement, some more ideas in terms of what you want to do on the local and national level, or any takeaways that you want to share with colleagues, the floor is still open, but I didn't see any hands anymore on the speaking list. So I'm gonna leave another. Yes, Fatima, perfect. Here we go. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon to everyone. Am I really audible? Hello?
Hello, we can hear you, but not very clearly.
Oh, okay. Like, I have a suggestion based on how can we mobilize students that are not in their countries, the union of students outside their countries, because I'm a student on the scholarship who is not staying in her country. So, and the place I am, we have many international students with their union. So how can we get, why not we get access to them and get them involved?
Fatima, I'm not sure if I fully understood the question. Can you maybe type it or try to say it again? It doesn't come through very clearly to me.
It's not really a question. It's a suggestion I have. I was thinking, why not get other students involved who have big union in a particular country? Like, for example, Morocco, there are many students at transit who are living in Morocco, and they have big communities. Why not get access to them and get them involved?
Alex, did you understand fully? I'm not sure if it's my end, the audio.
No, sadly, I didn't understand it. I'm very sorry.
If anyone else understood and has better audio quality, please can you repeat? I'm not sure if it's on my end the issue or. Fatima, I'm really sorry. Can you maybe catch the key message?
Okay, I think I was having connection problem, or
Yes,
maybe it's
now we
my
can hear
voice
you.
that is not audible.
Now it's perfect. Please go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, it's not a question, it's just a suggestion. Like, why can't we involve other students in other countries, because it's a global student association? Because what I can see is I'm part of an association here in Morocco, and it's a big association, including all Gambian students in Morocco, but I hardly saw them participating in this stuff, and they are very active in our student association. And we have other association from other nationalities, Guinea-Bissau, Nigeria. Most of African countries have their students union here. So why not we get access to them and get them involved? It will be a big gain for the Global Student Association.
Thanks, Fatima. Yes, I fully agree. So in our case, we work very strongly with the All Africa Student Union, which is the umbrella organization of all national unions in Africa, and have quite strong engagement from the national level. I see a lot of value in what we were saying in terms of bridging the gap between the national and the local level. And I think that's really important. So what we're doing right now often stops when it comes to the national union and does not make its way towards local, institutional, university, student unions and the activists there. And that would be quantitatively a much bigger group. So I hope that with this campaign, we can do that and have a very clear messages towards national unions, not only in Africa, but everywhere, that this is a campaign that does not only need to be fought by their activists in a national framework, but needs to trickle down to the university level. So this is well noted, and I couldn't. I very much agree with the notion to activate more students. Sorry, come in.
I also have a question. What are
Yes.
the targeted country for the tax justice?
Again, what?
What are the target countries for the tax justice?
The target countries are all countries that are interested within the membership of the Global Student Forum. So all national unions or all representatives here that want to take up this campaign are happily invited too. So I think we will definitely need strong participation from Africa, and it would be very good to have also the European student unions coming along. But then I think that the more regional diversity you have colleagues in Latin America, Asia Pacific, Middle East also taking this up, the stronger the impact. But there are no specific target countries. It is whatever national union has the capacity and willingness to engage with this campaign is happily invited to do so. Dr. Danov, I'm sorry, you had to wait a bit. The hand is again. Please go ahead. Floor is yours.
Oui, merci, bonjour. Ok. Tout d'abord, je me présente. Je suis Dieu.
First, I'm Dr. Dufort.
Je vis en Haïti.
I come from Haiti. I'm a doctor here in the Caribbean. I'm very happy to work with you. It was very important to talk about education in the world. And can you hear me? Before I continue, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear, and the interpretation works perfectly.
Ok, merci. Ok, merci beaucoup.
Okay, thank you so much.
Comme vous le savez très bien,
As you know, education is considered as the key for a good future. It's an important element to fight against unemployment. And I want to take some distance to understand colleagues from Africa, especially who have been talking about problems in the continent related to education. And it's pretty much the same thing in my country. Education is not accessible by everybody, and especially we have education that is private. Most education has been privatized. So education is more a luxury in Haiti. And most vulnerable people don't have access to education. We don't really have government aids or any more help of the government for education. And that's why, well, education is becoming less of a priority or a state priority. So we see a lack of investment in education, and it should be a priority, but sadly, we don't really invest in education in the country. So I think this type of training, it's very, very important for me, especially who lives in this country and who really wants to improve the quality of people's lives somehow. And I was thinking, why not being part of this network and being part of this initiative? And I feel very motivated, and I think people like me or young people in my country, we want to be aware of the reality. And I think we can collaborate together with colleagues in Africa who also have the same problems as we do. to see how countries who have already made progress in terms of education and tax justice, talking about some countries in the Americas, in Europe, countries who understood the role of education, the importance of education. So I would like to work together to have more sustainable solutions and to help change mentalities of presidents, people in the government who sometimes don't really have the knowledge, don't have the motivation or the skills to and the willingness to invest in education. And so I'm counting on that collaboration with you in order to make progress in terms of this debate and to include more and more people. And so thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tifo, and it's really wonderful to have participation from Haiti. I think this is the first time we have someone attending one of our events from this part of the world. So really good to have you here, and looking forward to continuing this collaboration. Next up is my friend from Chile, Sebastián. The floor is yours.
Hola, sí, voy a hablar en español.
Hello, I will switch to Spanish for the purpose of the translation. So let me know when you can get the translation. Is it working? Okay, great. Well, first and foremost, I wanted to thank you for this initiative. Sebastián, thank you for this invitation. I think it is super important to know how financing works, how taxes work, and how, well, the different speakers have enlightened us in this topic. In Chile, we are putting together a national request and including different axes. And this includes the topic of higher education financing. So everything we have learned will be very useful in order to advance and provide a little bit of more of content to our efforts. And as next steps, we want to continue on behalf of everyone here in Chile, and getting to know the experience of other countries is key in spite of the distance between us. I think that problems to a certain extent are the same. In our country, education has become privatized to a great extent. So I wanted to thank
Et on veut continuer ce travail, cette collaboration.
also continue to work together and joining our efforts. I want to stress this. Together, we are more. We can be stronger. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sebastian. Very well said. And I think it's a wonderful wonderful line to potentially close the discussion at some point. Together we are stronger, and I think that's the most important part. Looking into the months ahead, and planning out the next steps and actions in the campaign. So I hope we'll have a strong participation of colleagues from Latin America, and it's wonderful to see Confesh here. Is there anyone else who wants to take the floor before we slowly wrap up? Anyone who wants to add something to the discussion? Because if that's not the case, I would like to thank all of you on behalf of the GSF team, and also on behalf of Hector, who has been working a lot to prepare this together with David, Archa, and Maria and her team from Tax Justice Alliance. So all of the speakers, all of the people in the conceptual team that made this possible. We are deeply grateful for that, but also to the interpreters who have been making this possible. And I see David just came back at the moment where we are wrapping up. So also a huge thank you to the interpreters who have been allowing us to really make this a global event and facilitate these sessions with colleagues from all regions. We will try to facilitate the working groups also in multiple languages. We won't have interpretation there, but we will ensure that members of our team or colleagues that speak these languages will be part of the working group sessions. So the participation is not only for English-speaking colleagues. As I was saying, I'm gonna send a follow-up email with today's presentations, both the one of Carmen and also the one with the timeline. Plus, I'm gonna link you the session recordings of the first session and of this session in case you want to review it once more. And we're going to outline very clearly what are the next steps and how to participate. There's going to be the call for members of the working group. So if you are interested, please, even if you have expressed your interest already in the chat here, please fill the form. We're going to ask you for some information, and then I'm going to create a mailing list, and Hector will reach out with the first initial doodle for a meeting of the working group, where we will define the mandate together, where we will start thinking through task divisions, milestones and timelines. Beyond that, I was briefly touching upon the Education and Academia Stakeholder Group and the HLPF engagement. In case you are a member of the Global Student Forum, so you're a member of a regional platform or a direct member, you can become a member of the Education and Academia Stakeholder Group. That will also be linked there. So in this one email, you'll get a lot of information from our end. And I hope that we can sustain the momentum. I hope we can sustain the drive and keep people engaged. I think that's really the most important part. We learned a lot here, but now it's about putting it into practice, working with partners, and really making a difference in the moments that are ahead in 2023. So with that, thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'm looking forward to continue this work together and being in touch very soon.